Pate State Speaker Series where we're comfortable, and that's in the film room. And I'm here with Miami offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson. You got a new polo on, man. I saw you in Houston, and now I see you with that U. I mean, you've been here spring, so you got to take in spring. What's the move been like? First impressions of the program. What has it been like for you over the past couple of months?
I took the job about 2.5 weeks before spring started, right? So it was a whirlwind. We had to hire a couple coaches, all while installing the offense to the coaches and then to the players, all within about a 3-week span, right? Quickest I've ever done it. Probably was a great thing because you really focus on what you want to get in first, right? And so I tried to come here with no preconceived notions about players or about anything, right? I mean, I already knew about Tyler Van Dyke because of a couple of years ago I paid attention to him, stats and everything. And, you know, but I came in really with a clear mind, and kids were very eager. Attitudes were great, but it's always like that at the beginning.
Yep.
And then as time goes on, the key is to sustain that, right? And so, but I thought the spring was very, you know, we got everything installed. I think it was a successful spring. It was give and take, offense and defense, which is what you want. We had some days where we went out there and did really good, and we had some days where we came back in and had to kind of refocus a little bit, which is kind of what you want as a program. But overall, very pleased at the end of spring, very pleased going into summer. I think the mentality is great. I think the kids we have in place are definitely good enough to make plays and be good on offense.
You're bringing in an offense that's, I would say, pretty different than what they ran here last year. And I'm going to leave that up to you to explain, and we're going to talk about Tyler Van Dyke in a second. But you're talking about coming here and trying to install in the spring. On a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult would you say it is to install, from a player's perspective, what you want to run?
I don't think it's very difficult. I mean, I think that you always, when something new comes in, I mean, you start from a clean slate. You know, I mean, you start from day one and then you build, right? I think, you know, I don't know how other people do it, to be honest with you. You watch football, and from the naked eye, a lot of it looks similar. In my opinion, the difference is how you program the quarterback, like the clarity in which you program the quarterback, right? And so I think there's times when quarterbacks are very cloudy in between their ears, it shows up on the field. You know, and that's really my job. It's my job overall is to get Tyler to where he understands things like I understand things. Because if it doesn't make sense to him, then it doesn't matter what I know or what I don't know. And so I'm just trying to program his mind to where he can execute our offense and he knows exactly what we want to do. And to do that, I think it's got to be pretty simple on our end, right? And to look complex on the other side, but to be simple on our end is the key.
We're going to zoom in on Tyler Van Dyke here for a second. You said, as most people would, you were aware of him. You put up big numbers a couple of years ago, fell off a little bit last year from a statistical standpoint, and you're talking about that synergy that you need with your quarterback, sort of a one-mind mentality, which is redundant, but it is what it is. So how long does it take with a guy who's got some maturity about him? He's been here a couple of years.
Right.
How long does it take before you start feeling like you're not drinking from a fire hose anymore? You're starting to grasp it. We're starting to feel that between plays like we know we need to.
It takes, especially in my situation when I get here and everything is so compact. Like, we got to get ready for spring practice right now, right? So it wasn't we didn't have a honeymoon period where we had some time to over the Christmas holidays to kind of hang out and get that done before we went to football. It was football, everything right now, which I will say, having a kid like Tyler that has a very high IQ, very high capacity, it made it a lot easier. You know, if you were dealing with a guy that didn't have the experience he had, didn't have the overall understanding of offensive football, you know, we probably would have got less done in the spring than we got done.
All right, so we got some stuff queued up from the spring game, and you got some footage of Tyler Van Dyke. And when we say footage, we're not talking about broadcast footage. This is more all 22. This is the stuff that you would watch as a coach. So a lot of us have listened to you from the introductory press conferences to this setting here. And you talk about the mentality Tyler Van Dyke has, some of the poise, some of the accuracy, all the intangibles and tangibles that are important for an offense like yours.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd love for you to do is to treat me like a fifth grader, and I'd love for you to walk me through some of what you saw from him in spring.
Okay. Treating you like a fifth grader is easy. All right, so right here, this is something, I'm glad this clip's first right here because people ask me this question about him a lot, and obviously the last quarterback I had was Clayton Tune
Right.
at Houston, and
Athlete.
good athlete,
Yeah.
right? A better athlete than people even give him credit for, to be quite honest with you. But this right here is key in college football today because D lines are so good, they're going to get back there. Now most of the time, I'm trying to get the ball out within 2 seconds. Like our passing game is very rhythmic, right? Now, there are times that we got to push it down the field. This is 3rd and 14 right here. So we need some time right here. It's crucial that when things break down like they do right here, he doesn't necessarily have time to hit this window. But to have the ability to do this in this situation when it's 3rd and 14 on the 35-yard line, that kept us in field goal range. And so taking a sack right here is detrimental. We lose points, we lose everything. So being able to spin out and just have that ability to get 10 yards, get out of bounds, and give me a chance on 4th and 2. Maybe we go for it. We definitely have the chance to get in field goal range right here. I talked to Tune about this for the last 2 years he had too was, you play golf?
I would love to be able to play it at a high level. I've swung the sticks before.
Yeah. Well, to me, minimizing your misses, right? Being able to play the game to where you're good is good. Like Tyler's good is good. It's good enough, right? It's NFL good. Tune's good is good. Now, the key in the course of playing a football game is to not let your bad beat you. You know what I'm saying? It's really just to manage when you miss that drive, is it in the fringe or in the woods?
Right.
Mine's in the woods a lot of times, but yours might be in the fringe. I don't know. But your misses can't be in the woods.
Right.
You know what I mean? So right here, if he didn't have the wherewithal to do this right here and spin out, then we take a sack and we have to punt.
Let me ask you this. So we got this frozen right here. It's 3rd and 14. He's on a rollout that is not planned. It's not part of this play.
No.
It's just part of the skill set the quarterback has. When you look at maybe like the PFF, so you look at some of the stat grading companies out there, this play is not going to show up.
No.
And it doesn't boost Tyler Van Dyke from a statistical profile. That's why I've always been curious when you're breaking him down and you've got your own internal metrics. How do you account for the fact that this dude just picked up 35 yards really here?
Yeah.
He didn't pick up 10 yards, he picked up 35 because there's an A-B scenario.
That's right.
How when you break a guy down, and let's say you had a really, really heated quarterback battle, how are you accounting for that? Or is it just burned in your memory that I know that guy has that, I don't need the piece of paper to tell me?
Well, the more times you bail me out, the more I love you. It's simple, So this right here, honestly, let's talk about this like in reality, right? This is not a very good play call right here. Like, this is a poor play call by me because we're in field goal range, right? Now, if I'm going to do anything right here on 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, it should be with the sense of getting half of it back and not even giving us a chance to have a negative play right here, because I know a negative play takes us out of points. So really right here, I need to be more conservative than this, but I talk to these quarterbacks all the time about being my barometer, okay? So, hey, there's going to be times where I really push the envelope on trying to gain more grass and push the ball down the field. You have to be my barometer of, hey, when something's bad, I mean, even if he got back to the line of scrimmage right here, that's a plus. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so my fault right here, bad football call by me, but Tyler Van Dyke, you bailed me out. I appreciate that, brother. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so that's one gold star for Tyler Van Dyke here from the spring game. I'm really interested. You got a different angle here. What do you see from this?
Same thing, really. I mean, being able to feel that, right? I mean, 44 is a really good pass rusher. But right here, our route isn't developed yet. We're trying to hit this window right here. And defensively on 3rd down, they're going to create some twists and stuff to get a guy free. And so the clock in his head, it went off, right? He sees color, it went off. Look, that's awesome. Now, if that guy was like about to tackle him, I would say you need to throw that ball out of bounds, right? But the fact that he didn't feel anybody threatening him, hey, go get what you can get. Get what you can get and get out of bounds. Now I'm dealing with a 4th and 2, 4th and 3. I love that. Now Coach Cristobal can give me the thumbs up to go for it, or he can say, hey, let's take the 3, depending on what he wants to do as a head coach. But at least he gave me the option. You know, if he gets sacked right here, Coach Cristobal is probably saying something completely different.
Probably in your ear instead of his. Yeah.
Right.
When you first got here, and you had seen a little bit of him, but then you really dove in on Tyler Van Dyke, when you see a guy's accuracy, when you see what you're inheriting, how teachable is accuracy?
You know, that's a really good question because, you know, I think the clarity of mind can get you more accurate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think there's some inaccuracies that lie in 2 different areas. I think there's inaccuracies that lie in, hey, this guy's got a flaw in his motion. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't know what I can do about that. You know, I don't know if I can get the ball coming out clean, this and that. And I think there's a pocket of inaccuracy that has to do with the quarterback's programming, that when you clear the mind, the accuracy comes because he has a distinct idea of what he wants to do. Now, so I think you can improve accuracy if it's that. If it's the motion deal, I don't know if you can improve it.
So you'd almost rather inherit a guy that maybe from the neck up's a little cloudy. You think you could clear the dust out of there a whole lot quicker than you can clear the dust mechanically. That makes sense. Are you a red zone guy or a red area guy?
I would say red area guy because you have about the 25-yard line that you consider the red zone, but then you also have around the 10 or 12-yard line that you consider the score zone, where defenses change their mentality and start playing either red 7, which is the zone coverage down there, or they're going to play man. You know, so wherever the defense changes their identity is kind of where we draw the line in the sand game plan, and then it changes. It'll change. Sometimes it's the 8-yard line. You'll see where the DC kind of changes his philosophy and switches to another mentality. Maybe it's a pressure mentality, or maybe it's a drop mentality. It's either one of the 2.
Right. So I want to, if you could run this playback one more time, because it's really interesting. And I asked that because from a broadcast perspective and from a layman's perspective, you just hear the term red zone.
Right.
And you just hear inside the 20, and that's sort of this all-encompassing term, and a lot of people talk about how play calling changes. The field gets condensed.
It does.
But you're talking about, from the coach's standpoint, there are zones even within that red zone, and I'm really interested when you first come in and you're teaching your offense, I'm sure you've got your own focal points and teaching points about how you want things going once you get down in this portion of the field.
Well, I mean, the first thing is don't go backwards. So once you get into the red zone, stay in the red zone, you know, because you want points. Now, you want touchdowns over field goals. If you can score touchdowns at about a 70 to 75% clip when you get into the red area, red zone, however you want to call it, you're a really good offensive football. Now, the way they do statistics, like when you pull them up, it's more so points in the red zone, right, which accounts for field goals and touchdowns, which you should be in the 95%, right? You should be high in that. But I'm talking about touchdowns in the red zone are more important. Like, you don't need to be scoring touchdowns at a 50% clip when you get down to the red zone. You need to score touchdowns. So how do you score touchdowns when you get down there? You got to be efficient running the football. You got to be physical running the football because it does get tight down there. DBs don't have to cover as long. The field gets condensed. It's a lot easier to play defensive football on the 10 than it is the 50, right? Run the football, go forward, and take the first possible shot that you can take. Eliminate negative plays. Do not go backwards is the recipe for going forward and scoring points.
I'm also interested as we go to the next play, footwork.
Okay.
When you're looking at Tyler Van Dyke, what do we see in terms of footwork?
Calm. So you see his foot, you just watch his feet right here. Now we teach a rock step with the left foot. You see that left foot kind of picks up and puts down right here. I teach that for rhythm because a lot of our throws are quick throws. Yeah. And so that rhythm throw right there, it just gets your body in the right just position to throw. Rock step, back foot in the ground, throw. But what you don't want to see, you don't want to see feet all over the place. You don't want to see happy feet because the feet are going to give you a window to the mind, right? If the feet going crazy, the mind's going crazy, right? And so I want the feet to tell me that your mind is clear. So if you watch his feet right here, his feet are in the ground planted. He's very decisive. He knows exactly where he's going right here. He's got a big boy playing man coverage. I mean, this ball's out way before the guy even gets even with him, right? So he knows this too. We got playmakers, right? Quarterback, I say this a lot. Quarterback's a very dependent position. You know, we take a lot of blame and we give way too much credit when things go good. But we probably get a little too much blame when things go bad too, but that's just part of the job description, right? We understand that. And so, but this is the most important right here, right? These guys have to do their job or nobody can do their job. And then we got to trust that when we make a good, accurate throw, that those guys are going to make a play. Mm-hmm. And they got to be in the right spot with the right technique. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you know, it's a very dependent position. We need those 10 guys to do their job. That's why trust is so important. Attitude is probably the most important, of having an attitude of attack. You know, everybody needs to have the attitude of attack. And that's really the what people talk about air raid, right? And there's no, like, air raid is thrown around a lot. Air raid is just a mentality of playing football freely. You know, playing football with the mental freedom to go out and make plays and not really worry about results. Just worry about, did I do my job on this play? If I did and it didn't work out, fine. Let's line up and play the next play. You know what I'm saying?
I'm also always fascinated when we get into spring. That's when everyone starts looking back in totality at last year. You start looking at how many close games you lost, and everyone just thinks, man, 1 or 2 plays, we win that game. It's also drops at the receiver position. We struggled with drops last year. All we got to do is fix that. Well, again, if you sit behind a microphone, it's really easy to say that. But when you actually get in the film room, and then you get on the jugs machine, and then you get on the spring practice field, how do you actually go about fixing mistakes like drops if they were chronic a year before?
Well, drops are drive killers, right? There's a handful of things that are drive killers, and you know, penalties are drive killers. You get a holding penalty, or you get something that puts you behind the chains. That's tough. You know, tough to dig out of that hole. Drops are huge. You know, because not only do you like drop it, it's just a blow. Yeah. You know, everybody is just like, especially if you're wide open. You know. It's kind of demoralizing for the offense and the fan base, you know, and everybody watching. And so, you know, you want to make the layups. And I say that a lot about quarterback play and receiver play is, look, if you're open and the ball is accurate, we got to make it, right? If the receiver's open and it's a 15, 10-yard route, that's a layup, right? We can't be missing those. And so how do you minimize those? I mean, you said jugs machines. I think jugs machines is part of it, because I think the sheer amount of balls you catch matter, because spaced repetition is how you learn how to do something, right? And how you get better at it. It's the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 rule, right? 10,000 hour rule. I mean, you got to do it over and over again, but I also think you have to be comfortable within your own skin, within the offense, and just have, you know, the mentality of, I believe in me. If nobody believes in you, you better believe in you, right? Number one. And I think that drops sometimes equate to people not believing in themselves, having some unsure things in their mind about themselves, or maybe about the route they're running, or about anything. So as coaches, we need to build that confidence in kids that, hey, you are the player that you think you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are the player that you can make that play every time. And there was no better example of that than at West Virginia. If you look at Kevin White's junior year to senior year, his junior year was very, very average. His senior year, I mean, he was drafted, second or third overall?
Yeah, opened against Alabama. He tore him up in Atlanta.
And that game, we preached all summer to that kid that, hey, you're as good as anybody out there. But if you look at his film, his junior year, you'd have never saw it.
Right.
But we preached it. We believed in him. We built him up. We loved him. And then he had that game against Alabama, and then he said, man, I am as good as anybody. And so when that starts ticking, and that belief, that seed is planted, and that belief starts growing, then not only do you make the routine plays, but you make the hard plays look routine.
Is that the kind of thing that has to happen in a game? Or can that root start being planted and that start germinating even during spring practice?
I think it starts germinating in practice, but I don't think it takes root until you make plays in a game. like, because that's the hump you got to get over,
Yep.
right? You can, like, anybody. I think Fuzzy Zeller said, I can hit it straight on the range with a Coke bottle and a stick, you know. And when you get up to that first tee, you shank it, which I do half the time. But until you do it in the game, you know, not only are you probably not going to be over the hump, but everybody looking at you that has those question marks about you. Because, you know, I mean, this whole life we live right now is the critic. It's easy to be a critic, right? We have critics all around us. I mean, you look on social media and kids get bombarded with negativity when they fail. But what they also have to understand is those failures are what's going to make you better. My failures in life have made me better as a coach. And so embrace them, you know, and let those critics fuel you, you know. I mean, there's some players we have on this field right now that people are having a big question mark about, you know. There is. I mean, I see it. But that fuels them to prove them wrong, too. And there's a couple that did what you just said, that had some drops last year, costly drops. And so it's time to prove people wrong, right?
How hard is it? Because sometimes guys really get excited when they do it right. Mm-hmm. And then you got the coaching point, which is, I want you to do it till you can't get it wrong.
Yes.
And it is so hard if you grew up in highlight culture to stop thinking in terms of highlight and think in terms of, well, here's a 2nd and 11, you drop the ball. This is not on your Instagram reel. It's not a highlight, so it doesn't live in your mind. But this is you as a football player, every bit, if not more, than the highlight, because I can't put you on the field if this keeps popping up, because that is a drive killer.
I say this every day to quarterbacks, receivers, routine plays win games. The highlight plays don't win games.
Right.
Like if you watch 80 clips in a game, there might be 2 highlight plays. You know, routine plays win games. This play right here is a routine play we're about to watch. This wins games, okay? This is a slant route up top by Colby. I mean, that play right there, as simple as it might look, right? We got leverage. We're making him guard him. We got space. We're squeezing in. That play right there and catching it and getting forward and gaining 8 yards, that is a routine, tough football play that wins games. Highlight stuff, that stuff comes naturally. Now, at receiver, a big key is if you play 80 plays, right, in a game, which is a lot, right? If you catch 8 balls, that's a good game.
Right. Really good game.
Right? So what did you do the other 72?
Right.
I had a scout tell me that years ago that, look, we watched those other 72 harder than we watched the 8. And so I tell kids that story because that's stuck in my mind. Like that guy planted that seed in my head years ago. And I tell guys, look, he takes it, like he does it every play, right? And I told him the same thing at the beginning of the spring. I said, I don't care about the plays you make. I care about the plays you're in there when you don't get the ball.
Right.
Like, are you giving the same effort? Are you doing this right here? So he knows right here, this is zone coverage. He knows he's not getting the ball right here. He's holding this guy for the outside receiver. Are you running that route the same as if it was when you were getting the ball, right? Because you're helping your buddy out now. You know what I'm saying?
This is, I mean, these kind of things are things that you live in. Like you live in that world. One of the characteristics here, if we're running this playback for a second, so it's a simple slant. Mm-hmm. He catches the ball. Ball's placed very well, doesn't have to lean, doesn't have to reach too much to get it. If a normal person could even just achieve getting to this point right here, the toughness to then turn upfield is not something normal people possess, obviously.
No.
Talk to me about how important that is.
Well, getting vertical, we have a whole drill set aside for, we call it gain it ground drill, which is the process of catching the ball and getting straight vertical, which is an old Hal Mummy, Mike Leach, air raid, like drill, right? It's crucial. And if you watch people that play in our offense for a while, what really sticks out on tape is how quick they get up the field, right? Because it's stressed hard.
I was interested. So you had some cut-ups from your days at Houston,
mm-hmm.
and I wanted us to get to that because I wanted to see what you had at a previous stop. You're always dealing with different personnel, still your offense, but you want to tailor it to your personnel. What are some of the things that would stand out the most to me if I were watching film from Houston?
The timing of play should be, first of all, we want to get the ball in play as fast as possible, right? You said it a while ago as far as, hey, when the ball hits your hand, does it look like it's just smooth, just get up the field,
Right.
right? It should be like these underneath, like this play right here, this should be like an extended handoff. We should do this enough to where if you see the leverage of this Mike pushed in, we're going to block these two guys and throw it to Tank right here. And so he sees it. That right there is, he catches it, gets vertical. That's a very simple routine play that turned into 30 yards.
Right.
That got us from being backed up to, okay, we can play offensive football now, right? That looked very fast because the throw was extremely accurate, Tank was very smooth, and he got up the field. And the blocking. You can't play good offensive football if receivers won't block.
Well, it's always interesting when you watch a perimeter screen, you watch something that requires really good blocking in the wide receiver position. Every coach will say what you just said. Every one of them will say, oh, blocking's really important. But yet you can watch some of them on film, or forget film, I can watch some of them on TV on Saturday.
Yes.
And then I watch some other ones, and it's very obvious that it's more of a emphasis, let's just say, with some teams than other teams, and it's pretty obvious you fit the latter category right here.
Well, I mean, you talk about being physical, and we want to be a physical offense, right? And we're not going to just depend on these guys to be physical.
Right.
That's not fair, right? These guys, their job description inherently, because people are lined up right over them, they have to be tough. They have to be physical, right? This kind of ties into what I said a while ago about, I think this game he caught 8 or 9 balls, right? This guy I think caught 3 or 4. Who's this over here? I'm trying to see his number. But these guys played 60 snaps probably without the ball. You better do this, because those are the snaps without the ball that I was talking about.
Right.
Those snaps matter more, right? But I also think that you got to have, there's certain guys in your room that ignite toughness.
Right.
And I'll give this guy credit right here. This guy right here is tough. And so he raised the level of toughness in that receiver room. And so I challenge our receivers all the time to be that guy that raises the level of toughness, because there are going to be certain guys that step up and say, okay, this is the line.
Right.
Like, this is how we're going to play, and everybody else damn well better play this way. These are just clips of getting the ball in play. And again, blocking, right? These guys he's fighting. Now, you're going to eventually get beat, but you better fight. But these are just ways to put the ball in play. Now, look, schematically, it's easy to get people the ball. Now, all the stuff after getting them the ball, effort here, all the other stuff is genetics and recruiting.
Right.
Like I can't take credit for what he's doing with the ball right here. I mean, the kid's a special player, right? But I can try to get this guy to get him the ball quicker, understand accuracy, where they can catch it and they can actually make people miss. There's nothing more frustrating than when the ball is all over the place and they don't have a chance to make the next guy miss.
Right. There's a lot to be said sometimes when you give a really, really fast player a chance.
Yeah.
Man, he can make you look like a genius.
Well, this is the same clip. So this is the same exact play that we ran with the slants. It's man coverage, and they're not blitzing, right? So where do you think the ball is going right here? That guy.
Yeah, I mean, we got it over the top.
You do. But he's running the same route Kobe ran.
Sells the same way.
He sells the same way, takes his time, creates space. The ball is extremely accurate, which is exactly what you saw Tyler doing. Watch Tune in the pocket right here. Rock step, get his feet set. They look very similar. They're a lot more similar than they are different when it comes to their ability to get the ball out and throw it with timing and accuracy, which all we got to do is get guys the ball in space. Like, that's our job at quarterback, is distribute the ball. Like, don't try to be Superman. You're going to be able to be Superman a couple snaps a game. Make routine plays. That's a routine throw and catch. Now, what he does after it is like, that's not routine. That's not routine. That gets you drafted high. This is what made Tune really, really good, in my opinion. we're running an end cutting route on 3rd and 14 right here, and they had a tendency to go cover 0 in this situation, and we knew it. Great concept route-wise for this, but you got to have courage because Toon knew this guy was free in this particular deal. Watch him stand in there right here, like right there. There's a free guy running through the B gap. You don't think he knows that? This guy ain't ready yet.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, to me, that play right there shows you what that guy's about. Because ultimately, I can't tell you many guys right here that when that happens, aren't trying to run out the front door or get in the fetal position.
Right.
You know, he hung in there, and he's getting hit as he throws. I mean, that's good stuff. That's quarterback play, in my opinion, like broken down to what makes people rise up and not, like the ability to stand in there and watch that bullet being fired down the chute, and you know it's coming, and not flinching.
Well, Miami offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson, it's been a nice education for us today. We sincerely appreciate it and wish you all the luck this fall. You got a few months, but I wish you all the luck this fall.
Appreciate it, guys.